Meanwhile, Nigeria's federal government has expressed deep concern over the high cost of producing a barrel of crude oil and its attendant effects on the nation's revenue. According to the government, Nigeria's input into the production of a barrel of oil remains one of the highest among all organizations of petroleum exporting countries, or OPEC, adding that the high cost of production is affecting all revenues and by extension threatening net revenues as well as stunted growth and development in the country. Minister of State of Petroleum, Mr. Timothy Silva, did not say how much it cost to produce a barrel of oil at the Yenagoa event, but in October he posted the cost at $35 per barrel against $10 it cost Kuwait to produce the same quantity of crude oil. Joining me to discuss this is Adim Okwesa, Associate Analyst at Financial Derivatives Limited. Adam, good morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning. Yeah.
So can you give us an insight on this scenario? Is this an infrastructural issue here? You know, it's taking us more to produce these barrels of oil.
Yes, definitely. It is definitely an infrastructural issue. And the situation is widespread across the African continent. It's definitely more expensive to produce oil in Africa compared to the Middle East, which have had a long history of producing oil. Nigeria, but relatively just new to the oil industry, considering 40 years. But the likes of Middle East countries have been doing this for over a century now. So with that technological advancement that the Middle Easterners have, they have the advantage, and they are thus able to produce oil at a lower cost than Nigeria. And it's definitely baffling when we consider that our cost of production is higher in countries like Nigeria. It's definitely baffling to see that the federal government is changing the terms, making it less attractive for international investors. I'm talking about this deep offshore and land-basin bill, making it less attractive for investors to come in. So it's a problem. It is a problem we'll continue to have, but the hope is that oil prices would rise higher so that we can offset the cost of our higher cost of production.
And still talking about the cost of production here. Now, specifics, as you've heard, in October it cost $35 to produce oil per barrel for Nigeria, while Kuwait only had to spend $10 for the same quantity. Yes. So is this problem only peculiar to Nigeria, or are there other factors here?
As African countries in general, we lack the technology, we lack the infrastructure, and of course there's also the risk of like militants. That is peculiar to Nigeria. The cost of
and
going
vandalism as well.
Whereas Middle Eastern countries, they don't have to go to deep offshore. They don't have deep offshore fields. We have to. The more lucrative oil fields are deep offshore, which adds to the cost too. So all those factors combined makes our cost of production higher, relatively higher than other global countries, other countries.
Very good. So how is this impacting this scenario on our revenue generation drive?
Well, definitely eats our revenue, even though if oil prices rise to a certain level, we have to take account of cost of production, meaning less revenue, less physical revenue, less export revenue comes to the government coffers. And it's definitely more critical now because the government is facing a lot of external balance vulnerabilities. External reserves are declining. Our currency, yes, it is stable, but it's still subject, it's still heavily linked to the price of oil. So with all that, we have to do all we can to reduce our cost of production so that we can make the most of the high oil price or the relatively stable oil price that we find ourselves now. Because in the next few years, oil will soon, there's no doubt about it, oil will be an extinct commodity. So peak demand will soon be reached, and that just means the price of oil would decline. Yes.
Very good. Just before we go to the next question, so do you think, to a large extent, it's time for Nigeria to think outside of the box when it comes to production-wise? Because we've been having this lingering infrastructure decay, apart from the fact that the Niger Delta, peculiar situations regarding militancy is also at play. If we need to build more refineries, more commercially viable ones, not the old ones we've had definitely they will have expiry dates as well. So why keep pumping so much money into them, into the guise of turnaround maintenance, and we could just have something less Herculean, as it were?
Yeah, the refinery issue is I've been talking about revamping.
Yes, it's been lingering for a long time.
Since I was born. Even.
Indeed.
So, but I think the government is hoping on the Dangote refinery. That is due to come in 2021. Hopefully that would be the silver bullet, so to speak, and solve all our refinery problems. But With regards to our other refineries
Yeah.
that are producing at suboptimal capacity, I think the government is in talk with the Russians, with several other host countries that are ready to fix our refineries. So we hope that even if the Dangote refinery still comes on stream, we'll have our own refineries to fall back on.
Of course,
Yes.
it's not economically viable to put your eggs in one basket at this
Exactly,
rate, so
yes.
that's not a good thing, as it were. So let's just have your assessment of Nigeria's input into the OPEC in terms of oil production and, of course, pricing, as it were. So how would you assess our contributions to that?
Well, in terms of this output production agreement deal, we have historically been the laggards, meaning that we have been producing above our quota for a long period of time. I think that is due to the disagreement about if condensates accounts, if that is part of our quota or not. But according to the junior minister of oil production, we were 100% compliant with the output production deal in November.
Okay.
And it seems that we are going to have to cut our production if OPEC indeed acts. We're not going to be exempted this time around, unlike 2017. So of course that will be detrimental to our physical and export revenues, because even if oil price is more sensitive, oil revenue is more sensitive to production than price.
Okay.
So our lower production means less physical and export revenues.
So that's not a good thing, regarding OPEC.
Yes, it isn't. But with regards to the OPEC meeting, I think because of a crucial factor, I think the retail pricing of the Aramco deal is happening at the same time as the outcome of the OPEC meeting. So I believe OPEC, Saudi Arabia in particular, because it's a de facto leader of OPEC, would want to do everything it can to prop up the price of oil, meaning we should not expect any surprises coming out from the outcome. I think the consensus is that they would extend the deal.
Yeah.
The question is for how long. The consensus is 6 months. If you get 9 months, if you get 12 months, it's certainly be positive.
All right.
So I think we should not get any surprises from that OPEC deal. I think we should expect OPEC to extend the output cut for at least 6 months, and markets would accept that and welcome that deal. Yes.
Very good. And just to wrap up the segment on our oil outlook, so natural gas dynamics, what's your take on that, the current dynamics or narrative on natural gas?
Well, natural gas, the price of natural gas prices are actually doing very well for this time of the year. This is peak demand because it's very cold in the northern hemisphere, in Europe, in the US.
True.
So that increases the demand for heating oil and thus natural gas. So the price of gas, I think it rose to almost a 2-year high a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Prices have declined this week.
Yeah.
But I think that is not due to fundamentals, or majorly due to market sentiment because of trade tensions and concerns about global economic growth and what have you. So, but for this level, natural gas prices are doing very well, and natural gas being our second largest source of exports of foreign exchange, that is certainly positive for the country.
Indeed, and I remember some few years ago in places like England, they used to have this issue of storing those natural gas. I think it was a big issue then, and it was actually affecting the prices of that. So let's move on to price movement regarding commodities now, especially in a look into wheat and grain prices. So what are your thoughts on those commodities?
Well, just like all other commodities, other markets, commodity markets have been depressed this week by the change in market sentiment because of, I would say, the tariff man that is President Donald Trump. He came back with the force this week. It came as a shock to almost everybody. Announced still tariffs on still imports from Argentina and Brazil.
It's like moving one step forward and a few steps backwards at this rate.
Exactly. He's threatening to retaliate on the French digital tax, and he also said that he's in no rush to sign a trade deal with China. Like it might even come as late as after the November 2020 election. So that uncertainty has depressed commodity markets, not only commodity markets, but equities, other types of financial assets. So that is depressing grains right now. And also the deal, we thought a potential deal will have the Chinese buying a certain amount of US grains. But with that deal looking not likely this year again, that has depressed prices.
Still a lot of question marks, as it were. But despite the current scenario, what is your outlook? What do you make of it on the short term?
Well, the short term prices would continue to decline, but not that much because we still have there's still tight supply in the US.
Okay.
Supply is tight because harvests have been delayed because of torrential snow in the US, which has delayed harvests. Harvests are likely going to be completed in April 2020. So that shortfall in supply would moderate the decline in prices.
Indeed. All right. So in view of all of this, do you think to a large extent the price commodity, has actually improved, or there's still uncertainty, just like you enumerated?
Please, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, indeed. Regarding what you've just said, do you think there's an improvement in the price, pricing of all this?
Not really. Prices have been underwater, at least certainly this week. Even in the tail end of last week, prices have been underwater, and the outlook isn't that positive. We expect prices to continue declining, albeit very moderately.
All right. On that note, Adim Okwesa of Financial Derivatives, I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on those issues. Good to have you.
Thank you.